They try to attack your character all the time. Now they're not even letting you speak at an event that's just kind of universally inclusive to everyone. You're trying to unite Democrats and Republicans on the issue of medicinal marijuana. They won't even let you speak at that.
Well, and I think it bears some context, Owen. People don't understand how precarious the future of medicinal marijuana in the 29 states where it's legal was this past week. Every Congress since 2014 has passed an amendment, a rider, to the appropriations that specifically prohibit the Department of Justice from the funding for a crackdown on marijuana in the states where federal and state laws contradict each other and the states have legalized. Incredibly, about a week ago, based on intense lobbying by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the House Rules Committee announced that they would not allow the rider to be attached to this year's appropriation. In other words, the committee was going to thwart the overwhelming will of a majority. The fact that this rider has passed every year since 2014 proves that there's a broad coalition of liberal Democrats and libertarian or Freedom Caucus-minded Republicans who support the amendment. Things looked pretty dire. The stage being set for the crackdown that Jeff Sessions keeps telling us he wants. You see, Sessions wants to vacate something called the Holder Memo, perhaps the only thing Attorney General Holder ever did that I agreed with, in which he ordered the Justice Department under Obama to stand down and to respect states' rights in the states that had legalized, now 29. Sessions would like to repeal this memo and start arresting people. What transpired to the good news would be that thanks to the efforts of President Trump and Senator Schumer and a broad cross-section of Republicans and Democrats working together, the amendment authored by Dana Ross Rohrabacher of California and Congressman Blumenauer, I believe, was successfully attached to the emergency appropriations for Hurricane Harvey. So legal marijuana in the United States is protected at least through December. I was in Washington last week working the phones, taking meetings, moving around to try to achieve this. And meanwhile, a small group of dissidents calling themselves the Minority Business Cannabis Association objected to my planned and scheduled speech at the Cannabis World Business Expo in Los Angeles. This was the second in a series of speeches. I spoke to their expo in New York and was extremely well received when I announced the formation of an ad hoc bipartisan nonprofit designed for the narrow purpose of persuading the president to stick with his pledge to the American people that he would respect states' rights and he would protect the access of millions of Americans, including veterans, to marijuana for medicinal purposes. Additionally, we're going to appeal to the president to change the schedule of marijuana from 1 to 2. Now, Owen, I'm not a newcomer to this cause. As a libertarian Republican, I have been in the forefront of marching for, writing for, lobbying for drug law reform since 2003. In fact, in 2003, I addressed a rally in Bryant Park with the Reverend Al Sharpton and Russell Simmons and the activist Randy Credico, calling for reform of New York's racist, draconian, outrageous drug laws. I wrote in favor of the amendment of that law in 2008. I spoke in 2006. I spoke out against it in 2008 when the alleged reforms looked to me like they weren't enough. I am no newcomer to this, but the minority business, cannabis business enterprise demanded that I be dropped as a speaker based on research from Media Matters for America, which alleges that I am a racist, misogynist, and an anti-Semite. When one examines their research, half of it's simply fabricated, things I literally never said. In other cases, they're taken out of context, although in an interview with the Daily Caller, I did actually apologize for the use of the word Negro in emails to Ben Carson, Herman Cain, Alan West, and Roland Martin. I now realize that in my attempt to be sarcastic, that some may have taken that as offensive. And for that, I heartfully apologize. Anti-Semite, misogynist? No. When you criticize an individual woman, that does not make you a misogynist. When you criticize someone who is Jewish, that doesn't make you an anti-Semite. I've never said anything anti-Semitic in my life. It's a smear. But after conferring with the Reverend Al Sharpton, who's the other speaker at this conference, the Minority Cannabis Business Association, their leader, some woman who calls herself Miss Mo Money or whatever, decided that I should not speak. Perhaps she is unfamiliar with Reverend Sharpton's long record of anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish comments, a record that, by the way, I have forgiven him for. He's apologized. I've accepted that. But I'm held to a quite different standard. That's why this is mildly amusing. Let's cut to the chase. My amendment, First Amendment rights will not be abridged. I will be speaking, Owen, in Los Angeles at the Expo at noon at the Alchemy Lounge at 603 West Pico, where we're going to have a brief rally in celebration of at least our temporary victory to protect medicinal marijuana and talk about why we need a bipartisan approach to this issue. So there it is. There is the breakdown.
Well, they must not know Roger Stone if they thought that they could stop him from speaking. I know you well enough, Roger, to know that nothing is going to stop you. And we're about to go to this break, Roger, but on the other side, you know, we've got a lot of Trump loyalists right now that are kind of on edge or not happy with the way that Sessions is approaching the marijuana issue, the drug issue, the legalization of cannabis issue. And let's also get into more about Sharpton and compare it to Stone. Last I checked, I don't think you owe millions in back taxes. Last I checked, you couldn't go on television and then barely read a teleprompter. You just spoke very eloquently for the last 9 minutes, Roger. How in the heck do they expect Al Sharpton to do that?
Well, you're right. I don't own the millions. I only owe them hundreds of thousands. It's a terrible tax system. Look, I am at peace with Sharpton. I recognize what he is. He knows what I am. He said things in his past that he regrets. He apologized for those, and I'm a Christian. I believe in redemption. His politics are not my politics. But to say Stone cannot speak, but Sharpton can, well, that's a weird brand of political correctness. Or to
We'll be right back, folks. This is The War Room. Welcome back to The War Room, at War Room Show on Twitter, warroom.show to find the live streams and the archived content. We are with Roger Stone right now for the remainder of this hour. We were just talking about how they're trying to stop him from speaking at a cannabis expo, but they had it all wrong. They can't stop Roger Stone, and he does plan on speaking. Roger?
You know, one of the claims here that is particularly egregious, of course, is that Stone shouldn't speak at a cannabis event because he has promoted the drug warriors Nixon, Reagan, and Trump. First of all, I have criticized extensively, both in writing and speeches, the war on drugs as envisioned by President Nixon for 30 years. But when it comes to being a drug warrior, do these people not understand that Obama and the Clintons make Reagan and Nixon look like pikers? Just in terms of raw numbers of people prosecuted and lives ruined, particularly by Bill and Hillary's famous 1994 crime bill, where the harsh mandatory penalty for possession of rock cocaine is worse than the mandatory penalty for the possession of powdered cocaine, for example. After all, Hillary said black people need to be made to heal under this bill. So there's plenty of bipartisan blame to go around in the war on drugs. Both Republicans and Democrats are complicit. It's a deep state staple. But when you look at it from any objective measure, Owen, it has been expensive. It has ruined lives and families, and it's had no impact on the level of drug use in the United States. So it is by any measure a failure. Drug abuse is a public health issue, not a criminal issue. Yet these laws have incarcerated, in some cases, an entire generation of young black men for the non-violent crime of possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use. This is an ignominious mistake. So I will be speaking in Los Angeles at an event sponsored by the United States Cannabis Coalition at noon on Friday, the 14th, at the Alchemy Lounge at 601 West Pico. They're waiving the door charge for the hour-long program. Come on by, and we'll talk about why a bipartisan approach what is necessary. But the real issue you raised that I want to talk about is Jeff Sessions. It is very hard to understand what's going on in his Justice Department.
I was glad that you went there because that's why I wanted to go next. There's a lot of Trump loyalists who are kind of not happy, to say the least, with the approach that Jeff Sessions is taking towards medical marijuana, marijuana in general, the entire war on drugs, and it's sort of turning them off. I don't know if Jeff Sessions can do enough harm to Trump's base to impact an election in the future. However, people are not happy with Sessions in general because of this one approach he's taking to this one issue where he could be taking a lot more attention to issues like Hillary Clinton and James Comey.
Yeah, I would say put the marijuana issue aside, if we may. You had the FISA court, which very clearly produced documents in November that showed that the entire Obama NSA, Rice, Brennan, Clapper, Rogers, et al., had, without any question, indisputably, illegally surveilled 30,000 Americans. And of course, we now know that that Miss Rice and the Samantha Powers, the UN ambassador, used that raw data, unmasking people illegally for political purposes. This is a scandal far worse than Watergate. Jeff Sessions, no grand jury, no prosecutions. He puts out a statement a week ago saying, very carefully worded, we have no evidence that the president was ever surveilled. We have no evidence. That's because the Brits did it for you. The Guardian has 5 sources on the record. Judge Andrew Napolitano was absolutely right about this. MSNBC and CNN dutifully reported that he had been borne out. It was only Fox that did not show that the judge was right. Why is Sessions putting the statement out now? And it's so carefully worded that you can see it's a lie. The question of Hillary's emails. Why is the Trump Justice Department in court fighting their release? The Clinton Foundation. This is a RICO Act waiting to happen. The Clinton Foundation is not a charity. It was a slush fund for grifters. This was a scam. The Clintons were skimming millions of dollars for personal use. They were accepting dollars that were prohibited. Their state and federal filings are a cornucopia of evidence for their prosecution. Sessions does nothing. Is this man sleeping? Is he compromised? Oh, wait. He's too busy with his new asset for forfeiture program. Let me explain this to you. This is where the government seizes everything you own when you're accused of a crime and takes it before you've been convicted of anything.
Totally unconstitutional.
Jeff Sessions, I was happy about his appointment. I like his position on immigration. I like some of the folks who come out of his office, like Stephen Miller, the Minister of Truth, as we call him. But Jeff Sessions is an anachronism. This guy is living in 1960 Alabama. The war on drugs failed. The sense of the Congress, as I said in the first segment, is overwhelming. If you look at the polls, we're now to the point where 70+% believe in medicinal marijuana. You know who is opposed, Owen? Big Pharma, the people who sell OxyContin, the people who sell opioids, even the people who sell aspirin. That's where the public health problem is today in terms of opioid-related deaths. But by any measure, Jeff Sessions cannot see that this has, under the state's tutelage, become a multi-billion-dollar, well-regulated, taxed industry, that hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues are propping up states like California and Colorado, who would be insolvent, out of business, bankrupt without marijuana revenues. It's an economic success. It is justice. It is a hell of a lot safer than OxyContin. But this is what Jeff Sessions wants to do, bust people for smoking grass instead of going after the Clintons or the Obamas. I don't get it.
Well, you know, one thing I'll say in his favor, you don't wind up, you know, washed up on a beach or chopped up into pieces when you try to go up against the marijuana people. Maybe something might be said for the other case there. But, you know, just a general point as we're about to go to break here, Roger, you know, for me, it goes back to, again, to what you were saying at the top of the segment. We shouldn't be putting people in jail for a victimless crime. I mean, these are victimless crimes. They're nonviolent crimes. Nobody should be put into jail, but this is the prison complex. And how can you make something illegal that grows out of the ground? I've never understood that my entire life. This is something that grows out of the ground. Roger, we got to take a break. We'll be right back on the other side. We got another segment with Roger Stone. We'll break down his fight for states' rights and the right for medicinal marijuana. This is The War Room. We'll be right back with Roger Stone. Welcome back to The War Room. We are live 3 to 6 p.m. Central right here, Infowars.com/show, warroom.show. Follow us on Twitter @WarRoomShow. We are with Roger Stone daily. He is with us now. Roger, there was a thought that you had on your mind. Is it still there? Is it still on the tip of your tongue?
Well, I think we have covered this subject pretty well. Hypocrisy of the left is stunning. Jeff Sessions' priorities are very hard to discern. I had lunch yesterday with one of my favorite people, Judge Andrew Napolitano, a close friend of many years, and he's just astounded that the Trump Justice Department is in court trying to withhold the Clinton memos. He points out that James Clapper told the Congress under oath in April of 2015 that Donald Trump was under government surveillance. And he, as a legal scholar, is just astounded. I must say, he is still a bullion, very happy about the appointment of Gorsuch to the U.S. Supreme Court, who he believes will go down as one of the great jurists of all time.
Well, Roger, it's amazing to me when you speak of the hypocrisies of the left. You know, they've kind of cornered themselves here because they wanted to push the story. They wanted to push the headline, hey, look, Trump's being wiretapped. That was literally printed by the New York Times. You know, all of these leaks are coming out of the White House. They reported on that time and time again. They were the ones spreading the leaks, excuse me. But then, how dare President Trump say he's being spied on? How dare President Trump say he's being wiretapped? How dare, you know, anyone want to do something to a leaker? I mean, it's really incredible.
And let's be clear, there is substantially more credible evidence that Donald Trump and his associates were under government surveillance than there is evidence that the Russians colluded with the Trump campaign to affect the election. They have been riding this dead horse for quite some time, but there is still, to this day, not an iota of evidence that would hold up in a U.S. court of law that anyone who worked for Trump did anything improper or colluded with the Russians. In defense of Donald Trump Jr., sorry, There's nothing illegal or improper about his meeting with a Russia attorney. She turned over nothing of any value. The meeting was innocuous, but even if she had had the keys to Fort Knox, such a meeting would not be illegal. So this is much Sturm und Drang about nothing because it's all they have. Donald Trump Jr. is a good man. And if someone comes to you in the midst of a campaign, and I've been through 10 of them now, and it's a person you know, and they say there is credible documented evidence that your opponent has engaged in malfeasance, you would be irresponsible not wanting to examine the documentation. In this case, there are more questions about who this woman is, how she got in the country without a visa, why the FBI let her in, why she's photographed at a Hillary Clinton rally, why she is seen in Senator John McCain's office. Can you say ringer, Owen? Can you say set up? Donald Trump Jr. is a patriot. He's a good man. He's a loyal supporter of his father. He's a regular follower of InfoWars, and he's done absolutely nothing wrong.
Well, and let's be perfectly clear, too. You've got CNN, who runs with this story all day long, basically admitting it's a nothing burger. You got Politico that just printed a story a few days ago. They're saying their sources say, well, there's nothing to this Russian deal. We got nothing. Don't expect anything coming from this. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Congressman Matt Gaetz. He's actually from Florida. He's a representative from Florida, Roger.
Matt Gaetz is actually on the advisory committee of the United States Cannabis Coalition. He is one of the most impressive young, hard-charging conservatives in Congress.
He had a very powerful moment on the Hill. I'm not sure when that was from. Was that from yesterday, Harrison? I'm not sure the date of this, but basically, Roger, he went to the Hill. It was from today? It was from yesterday or today. He went on the Hill, Roger, and said everything you just said, basically like, look, we're having all these special meetings. We're spending all this time. We've got a whole council looking into the Russia thing. They've got nothing, yet I've got stacks and stacks of evidence of Comey colluding with Clinton, the media colluding with Clinton, and we do nothing.
Well, and not only that, but there is now, I think, substantial evidence of a hostile foreign power interfering in our election. Very clearly, Hillary and Podesta and many of the people in their campaign are meeting frequently with the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians hoke up a phony ledger to smear Paul Manafort. The prosecutor in that matter now admits that the evidence is a forgery. There's no evidence that Manafort has done anything wrong. Interesting. New York Times has never quite come up with that retraction after smearing Manafort on page 1. And then secondarily, of course, we now know that the Ukrainians are selling missile technology to the North Koreans. So they are an enemy. They are a danger. The collusion with them is illegal. When is the House and Senate Intelligence Committees calling Podesta on that matter? When he was there to testify, was he even asked about this?
Well, we're not getting any answers. And I guess, what we're hoping for is once we get to the midterms here and we get a chance to make Congress great again in 2018, maybe we can get some real patriots in office that are going to go after the real collusion, go after the real crimes. I know that this is still more than a year away, Roger, but that's the only solution I see to this. And I'm just going to kind of compound it with this statement, and I want to get your reaction to this. You've got the Democrat Party that is fracturing right now. You've got dinosaur Republicans that think Trump is destroying the Republican Party. So essentially, Donald Trump has destroyed the Democrat Party. Now they're destroying themselves. And he's also destroyed the Republican Party. But it doesn't matter because the patriots, the Americans, the real people have just gone to the Republican Party and really just made a new party within. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, on paper, that's a great idea. But the truth is, the Republicans and the Democrats working together have so rigged the ballot access laws, the campaign finance laws, and of course, the Presidential Commission on Debates is not appointed by the president, not a commission, and most certainly not about debate. I think the Republican Party is the historic home of conservatives. Donald Trump's nomination is the hostile takeover of that party, or I should say, the take back of that party from the lily-livered Bush Country Club chicken shit liberal Republicans who are really more like Democrats, the rhinos, if you will. And we need to fight it out within the Republican Party. The Mitch McConnells, the Paul Ryans, they have failed us. They have milked millions of dollars from small donors across the country, saying that they'll stand up to the Democrats for a conservative agenda, but then they don't. Folks, don't send your money to the National Republican Congressional Committee. Don't send your money to the National Republican Senatorial Committee. They're milking you. They're soliciting your dollars, but they're not spending it on candidates who will stand up to make America great. They will defend incumbents and those who stand against the president's agenda.
And the main heads of that party are not getting behind Trump's agenda. They're not coming through on their promises. We're staring right at you, Paul Ryan, right at you, Mitch McConnell, and the list goes down the line. But I agree with you, Roger. I do think that this is the return of the true Republican Party, and I think what we're going to see happening here is a dominant Republican Party, at least for the next 8 years, that has a real mandate moving forward. 20 seconds, Roger.
Well, that's entirely possible. This is absolutely key, though. In the midterm elections, if the Congress, Republicans and Democrats working together, stymie the president's program, then he must run against the elite leadership of both parties. Triangulation, I think, is what Bill Clinton called it.
We will trump the establishment. That's the plan, but we got to get congressmen in that will back our agenda, which is Trump's agenda. One more segment with Roger Stone on the other side. Welcome back to the War Room. Final segment with Roger Stone. Final segment of the second hour. Follow us on Twitter at War Room Show, warroom.show for the direct video feed, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how you support us. Roger, we've got you for one more segment. Take it away.
You know, when I first moved to Florida some years ago, I began listening to the Sunday radio broadcasts of a local station where I heard a man who called himself Michael the Black Man. And Michael the Black Man was one of the most engaging evangelists, I guess you would say, that I'd ever heard. And he spoke eloquently, not only about history and the Bible, but also about America's future. And he had a very clear understanding of which party was the party of oppression and racism, and which was the party of opportunity, the party of Lincoln. More recently, however, Michael the Black Man has become a national sensation. Why? Because he started an organization called Blacks for Trump, and he and his followers followed the presidential candidate across America, showing up at his rallies and high visibility events. This, in turn, brought the media down on Michael the Black Man immediately. How can anyone who's black support this white supremacist, racist Donald Trump? The entire fake narrative. But to speak for himself as to why he supports the president and what the media has tried to do to him because of that support, he joins us now, Michael the Black Man. Welcome to InfoWars.
How you doing, sir? Glad to be here. It's wonderful seeing you.
Well, you've had a lot of courage, but I've noticed that recently, literally, millions of Americans are going to your Facebook page or your YouTube feed. Tell us about your experience in the campaign and what you did to help elect Donald Trump.
Well, what I did is we got some brothers together. You know, I used to do a jet ski party every Sunday at my house. I still do that. And from that, and the guys that listen to my radio station and go on my website, I got the brothers that believe like I believe. And we were taught by my teacher, which is Yahweh, that Republicans are our real brothers, and they're the ones that fought to free us, and that we are to defend them with our lives because they have defended us with their lives, especially during the Civil War. You know, of course, everybody knows Abraham Lincoln was Republican, so you know I'm with you all the way. So I got those brothers together to follow Trump wherever he went. Now, in 2011, we were the first band. I had a bunch of stars to sing for Trump at his big rally, and I wanted him to run because Yahweh met him a long time ago just walking down the street in New York, And y'all said, now this is the type of guy that we need as president because he's not found wanting. He has his own money and he's a warrior and he's not afraid of him. He's a Gentile. This is the kind of guy we need. So when he started running, I immediately jumped behind him because I was told in my youth that this is the kind of guy we need. And when I started listening to him talk, I said, wow, this is definitely the type of guy we need. So I jumped behind him all the way. And the brothers, when I explained it to him, we went through the Bible and all that. We said, this is Cyrus. Cyrus delivered the children of Israel. In Isaiah 45:1-6, he was a Gentile that delivered the children of Israel, who we believe were black. So a white man delivered us, and he's going to deliver us now. And our white brothers are in the same trouble that we in. We need to get out of this mess. The Democrats have been destroying the black man and the white man for the last 400 years here in America. They have wiped us out. So I jumped behind him and we followed him to, I think, about 72 states wearing T-shirts, Trump and Republicans are not racist. Then we had signs, Blacks for Trump, gods2.com. And we followed him everywhere. And the way you know that the white Republican brethren are not racist, because everywhere we went, they treated us so nice and wonderful. And, I just went and sat behind him and said, well, how did you get behind him? I just went and sat behind him, And I just held my signs up, and they looked like they were very happy to see me there. So that was the experience that I had. I was shown love by them, and I showed them love. I had to defend them, and they defended me. When people talked against me on the internet, they talked up for me. So I'm very proud of my brethren who are the Gentiles, who God says are the blessed ones with me in the latter days. So though they try to talk bad about us all, me and Trump, we just got to stick together, because Revelation 11:8-13 said, when they see the two brethren stand together, that's the black man and the white man, the Hebrews and the Gentiles, when we stand together as one, a great fear would fall upon them, because they know that the Lord is on his way to rule in righteousness. So that's my experience, and that's what I intend to set forth and make sure that Trump's policies get through, especially 2018, because that's the real election now. Trump stopped the bleeding. Now we got to go get rid of those Democrats who act like they're Republicans. It's about seven of them in the Senate that are blocking, like Ryan, Mitch McConnell, John McCain, Susan Collins, Jeff Flake, Heller, Murkowski, all those people. We have to get them out, and we need more real Republicans in, whether they're Latin, black, or white. We need real ones in. And other than that, if they repent, they can stay. But if they don't repent, we got to get rid of them. And so that Trump's policies can go through, because his policies are closer to the laws of God, like taking taxes down. That's close to 10%. Joshua 1:8 said, if you keep the law, I will make your way prosperous and give you good success. The whole country would be rich. Everybody would have money. Nobody minds giving 10% or 18% of their money to help the country move along. So I don't see what the problem is. The real problem is the Democrats want slaves, and they want black people and white people to remain as slaves so that we can't compete with them. So, they charge us high taxes. Most of them are not paying taxes, and they just get over. So that's why I'm standing behind President Donald J. Trump.
Well, you're absolutely right about the false narrative about the Republican Party. The 1958 Civil Rights Act was passed only with the leadership of Vice President Richard Nixon, who had to go around lining up enough Republicans to make up for the white Southern cracker racist Democrats who wouldn't vote for it. Affirmative action, the administration of Richard Milhouse Nixon, the desegregation of the public schools without bloodshed or violence, achieved by President Richard Nixon, increasing the Department of Justice civil rights enforcement budget 800%, increasing funding for black colleges 300%, desegregating the trade unions by the Philadelphia Act, desegregating the parts of the military. So the civil rights record of our party is clear. We're the party of Lincoln. The Southern strategy is misunderstood. Nixon understood that the law was the law, and the South was going to have to desegregate, and they had to do so peacefully. You don't do this with a bayonet. Let me be clear. The public schools were desegregated by Richard Nixon with no bloodshed, no riots, no violence. At the time Nixon became president, roughly 80% of the public schools were segregated. By the time he left, it was less than 20. Not Lyndon Johnson, not the vaunted John F. Kennedy, who did nothing for civil rights. No, but Richard Nixon. So this is refreshing to me. I salute you for your support for the president. You got a lot. You probably got more media than I did in the last cycle, Michael.
I don't think so, but I know I got a lot of negative media because they're on the absolute attack because they're what you call slave beating. That's to keep all of the other slaves in line. So they beat me up, then all the rest of them will see us get beat. That's a Willie Lynch letter thing when he said how to make a black man a slave forever is you take him out and beat him in front of everybody so everybody will be afraid to make any moves and make us dormant and lie still and do nothing. So I'll take that whooping for my people because they deserve freedom. And I love what you're doing. I love what President Trump is doing. I heard all of the things they're calling you a racist and all that. All that is a bunch of media, that David Brock and all them crazy people. That's all of their little crap and what you would call boo-boo to try to take you off of the playing field. But we're not going to let that happen to you either because I'm going to be wherever you at. I'm going to be wherever President Donald J. Trump is at, wherever anybody else who's running as a Republican, that's a real Republican, for Senate, I will be there and standing with you. If you don't want me to stand with you, I won't. Because I'm not getting paid for this. I don't want nothing. I've been doing this since 1997. In actuality, with Yahweh Ben Yahweh, the reason they put him in jail is because he only helped Republicans. He helped Xavier Suarez, Victor DeUry, Arthur Till. We actively went out there and helped him, and they called him all kind of bad stuff because he helped them. And Janet Reno and all of them tried to destroy him. Just told black people.
Michael, we are out of time here. We thank you, Michael the Black Man. Folks, please go to theinfowars.com.